the predator and the prey. The Zalthor were a race that had known nothing but dominance for millennia. They were a species whose technological advancements outstripped all others, whose fleet moved like a wave across the galaxy, crushing anything in their path. Their warships were living machines, capable of self-repair and evolution. Their weapons, a blend of advanced physics and biological horror, could disintegrate entire cities in seconds. Their soldiers, large, hulking behemoths, were stronger than any known creature and nearly impossible to kill. They had subjugated dozens of worlds, including advanced civilizations, with little effort. For centuries, the Zalthor believed themselves to be invincible. Their empire stretched across galaxies, their rule absolute. When they turned their eyes toward Earth, they saw nothing more than another insignificant planet to conquer, another species to enslave. Humanity, in their eyes, was nothing compared to the mighty races of the galaxy, but they underestimated humanity. For all their power and sophistication, the Zalthor overlooked one thing: human ingenuity. When their ships first entered Earth's orbit, it was as if the world had come to an end. Global panic spread as governments fell into chaos. Humanity, ill-prepared and outclassed, had no chance of victory. But one man, a quiet scientist named Dr. Callum Hayes, saw things differently. While others scrambled to prepare defenses that they knew were doomed to fail, Callum saw an opening. While the Zalthor were focusing their efforts on overwhelming Earth's military, Callum, deep underground in a high-security laboratory, was analyzing the enemy's behavior, communication patterns, and technology. He noticed that the Zalthor, despite their vast intelligence, were remarkably predictable. Their systems were advanced but rigid, and in this rigidity, Callum saw the potential for a weakness. He couldn't stop their ships or match their firepower, but he could use his mind to turn their own technology against them. The first encounter. The first battle between Earth's forces and the Zalthor was a massacre. The Zalthor's ships descended like ominous shadows, and humanity's best weapons, laser turrets, missiles, and even orbital bombardment systems, bounced off the invaders' shields like harmless rain. Earth's military forces, despite their courage, were outmatched in every way. Cities fell within hours. The Zalthor showed no mercy. They didn't raise the cities for resources, they destroyed them. For sport, the might of their fleets was overwhelming. The human race had never faced an enemy like this before. But as the carnage unfolded, Dr. Hayes and his team were already at work. They had no illusions about the fight ahead. They knew that brute force could never match the Zalthor's might. Instead, they devised a more subtle strategy. The Zalthor, Callum realized, were a species that valued strength above all. They relied on raw power and intimidation, not on strategic cunning. They would never expect a human to challenge them on their own terms. At the height of the chaos, Callum's team intercepted a transmission, an encrypted signal that came directly from the heart of the Zalthor fleet. It was a breakthrough. With his expertise in linguistics and cryptography, Callum spent days decoding the signal. When he finally cracked the encryption, the true nature of the Zalthor's communication system became clear. They relied on a central command hub to coordinate their ships and troops, and the hub was connected to a vulnerable link in their network. The plan was simple: exploit this link and disrupt their entire fleet. Callum knew that this mission was the only chance humanity had. If the Zalthor's command structure could be thrown into disarray, Earth might stand a fighting chance. The plan. With the Zalthor on Earth's doorstep, Callum knew time was running out. His team worked furiously, pulling every bit of knowledge they had about the Zalthor's technology to devise a way to infiltrate their flagship. The task was monumental. The flagship Fang of Zalthor was a massive vessel, its exterior studded with living machines that could sense and react to any threat. Every part of the ship was designed for war, and it was nearly impenetrable. But Callum had a theory. If they could infiltrate the flagship's command center, they could break the link in the Zalthor's communication network. The team developed a plan that relied on the one thing the Zalthor never suspected. Humans were not just soldiers. They were survivors. Callum's team wasn't just composed of engineers and scientists. It included military strategists, hackers, and former covert operatives who had been trained in stealth and evasion. They would board a shuttle disguised as one of the Zalthor's own transport ships. The shuttle was small, stealthy, and equipped with cutting-edge human technology designed to mimic Zalthor ships' electromagnetic signatures. It was a one-way ticket. Once they made it past the Zalthor's outer defenses, they would need to infiltrate the ship's innermost systems and plant the false commands that would send the Zalthor into chaos. The risk was immense. If they were discovered, the consequences would be dire. They had no backup, no reinforcements. It was just them against a galactic empire. Yet in the face of certain death, Callum felt a calm resolve. Humanity's fate was in their hands. Infiltrating the beast. The shuttle, cloaked in the shadows of space, moved swiftly toward the Zalthor flagship. Callum and his team could see the enormous structure of the ship looming ahead, dwarfing everything around it. Its surface seemed to shimmer with an eerie light, the ships that orbited it moving like clockwork. But as they approached, they noticed something, an irregularity in the Zalthor's pattern. They had expected this. The Zalthor, despite their intelligence, were creatures of habit. When they docked at one of the ship's smaller bays, the team quickly disembarked. They moved in silence, the shuttle's cloaking device still active as they entered the belly. The beast. The ship's interior was an alien labyrinth, glowing, organic walls that pulsed with an unsettling rhythm, corridors that twisted and expanded like the innards of some monstrous creature. The air felt heavy with energy, and every sound echoed in their ears like the beating of a heart. As they moved deeper into the ship, their greatest challenge was not the physical environment, but the alien consciousness. The ship, itself a living being, seemed to resist their presence. The closer they got to the core of the command center, the more hostile the environment became. The walls seemed to shift, and strange machines began to activate, searching for any sign of intrusion. Callum's heart raced as they made their way through the dark corridors. They had to be quick. Every second they spent inside the ship was another second closer to detection. But the closer they got, the more confident Callum became. He had studied the Zalthor for years, and now he was about to turn their own technology against them. The Great Deception. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the heart of the Zalthor flagship, the command center. It was a massive chamber, filled with alien technology that hummed with a strange, almost sentient energy. The center was surrounded by a ring of shimmering force fields, and guarded by a team of Zalthor soldiers, massive and terrifying. But Callum had anticipated this. Using a combination of stealth and quick thinking, his team was able to bypass the guards and infiltrate the control room. Callum sat before the main console, connecting his device to the Zalthor network. As he typed in the sequence that would corrupt their command structure, he felt a wave of anticipation wash over him. This was the moment of truth. His fingers moved swiftly over the keys, and the command center hummed with energy as the orders were transmitted. In an instant, the entire Zalthor fleet was thrown into disarray. Some ships began attacking each other, their own systems corrupted by the false commands. Others stopped responding entirely, their crew unable to figure out what was happening. Chaos reigned within the Zalthor fleet, and the invasion of Earth ground to a halt. But the Zalthor were not known for their weakness. As soon as the disruption began, their systems began to fight back, attempting to regain control. Callum and his team had only a few minutes before the alien forces adapted and corrected the breach. They had to leave, and fast. Humanity's triumph. As alarms blared throughout the flagship, the team raced back toward the shuttle. The Zalthor soldiers, now fully aware of the breach, closed in on their location. Callum's heart pounded as they sprinted through the corridors, dodging enemy patrols and navigating the treacherous, shifting halls of the alien ship. When they finally reached the shuttle bay, their relief was short-lived. The shuttle's cloaking device was no longer functioning correctly, and they could see the shadows of Zalthor soldiers moving closer. The shuttle, their only way out, was now a death trap unless they could activate it and leave immediately. They made a desperate sprint to the shuttle, just as the first of the Zalthor soldiers appeared in the hallway behind them. With seconds to spare, they activated the ship's engines and blasted off from the flagship, narrowly escaping the Zalthor's grasp. As they re-entered Earth's atmosphere, they knew they had done the impossible. The Zalthor, now in disarray, were forced to retreat. Humanity had won, not by force but by sheer intellect and daring. Callum and his team had outwitted the most powerful alien species in the galaxy. The world was safe, but humanity's place in the cosmos had forever been changed.